Hey guys, so for this video I wanted to talk about like the groups that I'm kind of into at the moment. As a disclaimer, I don't mean to be rude or anything, so if you get hurt by little opinions about groups that you absolutely love and you always want to defend them, just don't take it the wrong way. Because if I have their albums and I'm listening to their music, it's because I like them to some extent. But for this video it will be mostly new generation groups, so this is excluding my all-time faves, which are all older. So there's not gonna be like Super Junior, Dongbang, Shiny, Infinite. That is more of the second generation, so this one's kind of like a mix of intermediate, so they were in that shifting process, and basically newer groups, kind of the ones that are leading the K-pop world, I guess, these days, and it will just explain itself. I will not include some of the albums for certain groups because I either don't have the albums, and I will explain why. And this is going to be solely based on boy groups. I will do a separate video for girl groups, but these are kind of the groups that I am listening to, or at least paying attention to. So before I start, some groups that I keep my eye on but I don't particularly love or just have a lot of interest in are Up Tension and Off and Off, or On and Off. I forgot what they're under WM. Up Tension releases some good title tracks, but they're not a group that I really focus on. Sometimes I would check out, like, whenever they release a new song, I like to watch the music video, but I don't think I'll see myself buying any of Up Tension albums. But they're a group I know of, but I don't know that much of. And then Off and Off, or On and Off, I don't know which one's first, but I really enjoyed their first mini album, and I really want to see what they're gonna do with them, since they are on the same label as Oh My Girl and B1A4, and I really like how the style of music that they put out in that label, so I'm keeping an eye on them. So I don't want to particularly put them on the list here. And then 101 is not going to be included here, because if they were to be included here, they will be on the list, but since they are disbanding this year, there isn't much to look forward to afterwards. But just wanted to mention that it's one of the groups that I really like. And then Highlight, they don't count since they debuted in 2009 and they just got a new name, so they are excluded in here. So I will start with the kind of like the newer groups, and I will explain why. So I actually do have a Day 6 album, but I forgot where I put it. But Day 6 is, I count them as a K-pop group, but they're a group I really like. And then Astro, I don't have any albums from them. And NCT is another group that I like, but I like them more than Astro and Day 6. So for Day 6, I really like the twist that they have. It's kind of like indie towards mainstream, a mixture, so I really like that. Hopefully I will be getting some of the albums soon once I get a lot of money issues that I'm going through right now resolved, so maybe I'll be getting them. Astro, I really like that they've really been able to promote constantly, so they never go on a big hiatus, so that's good. And I do like their title tracks, but I don't have any of their albums because I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to buy any other stuff, and they already have a bunch of stuff, so that's just a lot more money to save up. But they are a group I listen to, mainly just the singles. And then for NCT, what I mean by NCT is NCT 127. I don't like the NCT Dream, I think that's what they're called. I don't like their music. It's just too childlike for me, and NCT is a hit or miss for me because I do really like their singles, like the lead tracks, but there's always a weird thing in their title tracks that just throw me off from listening. But in my opinion, Limitless had one of the best choruses last year, but parts of that song just didn't click with me. But I love Limitless for the chorus. Like, that chorus is one of the best K-pop choruses I heard in a really long time. And then they do have some good B-sides, but they are not particularly my cup of tea. I really like what they did with the Fire Truck album, but I still kind of pay attention to them in a way, but they're kind of on the lower tier. So then the first kind of more serious ones are, I'll start with M-Flying. So this would go from lowest to the ones I like the most. So M-Flying is getting there. I'm really glad that they kind of developed some sort of fandom, but not really. But as you can see, I actually have a signed copy, so I actually got into M-Flying when they first debuted. This mini album is really good. I really like that they bring something different to the K-pop scene. They're under the same label as FT Island and CN Blue, so when they said they were going to make a band, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope that they don't, make the same music as CN Blue or N-Flying, or FT Island. And they don't. They kind of mix a lot of different genres onto their music. And I don't know, I feel like it's something K-pop was missing. And they're really charismatic on stage. I like the new member that they put out in the group. I forgot his name. Well, he was in Produce 101, so hopefully they will get some more momentum and then win at least an award or something. But I really like their music. They had a single after this one, but it wasn't too, I guess, impactful as much as their first mini album, because aside from the title track, all the songs in this one are great. And the 2 mini albums that they released with the new member are really good. I really want to get those very soon. Again, once after my trip, I'll be just trying to save up to see what albums I want to get the most. But that's not on my list of newer groups that I want to get stuff from. But really like M-Flying. Definitely recommend listening to their music. I think that in terms of musical quality, they are amongst the best, but are extremely underrated. So please check them out. I know they don't have a bunch of fans, but then I have GOT7. So I have a weird thing with GOT7, which on some of my videos I kind of get hate on for this, but GOT7 doesn't produce the best music, to be completely honest. They do have some really good title tracks, which is why they're above N-Flying, and they have more releases than N-Flying, so that's kind of like the main reason why they're above M-Flying. And I really like each member a lot, but I hope that they improve in their musicality. I think that they were good, they were okay, gearing towards good during the first few years, and then they kind of jumbled all over the place. But they had some solid title tracks so far, but if they kind of continue with just mediocre B-sides, I don't know if I'm going to be buying their albums anymore. Because that's what's happening with like the new groups that I like, that some of them are releasing better music than the ones I initially liked the most, so that's just a weird thing. They are releasing a new album in March, so hopefully that's good. The JJ project though, that album, it kind of seems like a full-length album, but the album they released last year is actually one of the best things they've ever put out. Unfortunately, it was the subunit. So whoever produced that, or whoever was involved in that, needs to get into the GOT7 production for their albums. Then I have BTS. I know there are, again, like I was saying, there's going to be some groups that are a little bit older in this, but I know BTS debuted in 2003, but they didn't really get that much attention that year. They kind of started getting a lot of love in 2014. So They are the ones that are leading the K-pop music in terms of the boy groups. So obviously I had to put them in here. I really like BTS. I think they put out solid albums. Yeah, there's really not much to complain from them, but they don't put out my favorite music. Out of all the groups, I think they've always released decent music. Like, I could listen to it from start to finish for the most part. Sometimes some songs are too screamy for me. But that's just not even that many songs. It's most of the skits. So I mainly just skip those. But I really like what they do with everything. Their concepts, their music videos, their live stages. Yeah, everything they do is just really well thought out. So that's why I've been buying basically what they've been putting out. I am missing some things that I really want from them, which is like the Young Forever album and their debut single, and their You Never Walk Alone, which is a repackage of Wings. I have a feeling that they'll release a full-length album this year. So yeah, so BTS is kind of up there for me, but they're not my ultimate favorite when it comes to music, but I like what they do. Then I have Winner. So Winner holds a special place in my heart because I had this thing where I actually liked iKON a lot more than Winner. And this was before iKON actually debuted. I had a lot of faith in iKON, to be completely honest, to be better than Winner, because Winner wasn't a dancing group or anything, and I don't know, it's just weird. And I even bought a really expensive DVD for iKON, and then after iKON started releasing music, I just wasn't into them anymore. And then I listened to more of Winner, and I eventually things flipped for me, and I liked Winner a lot. I really like that they've separated themselves from that YG vibe, if you know what I mean. Because a lot of, you can tell when it's a YG produced song or is a YG artist. It's everything, but what Winner put out was completely different. It's like the same case with Acto Musician. I really like the originality they put out, and I know with the loss of Taehyun, everything was just kind of jumbled all over the place, but they've kind of developed this new sound that I really enjoyed. And yes, so I'm really excited for their comeback. Hopefully they do get more promotions this year. They're one of those boy groups that are completely different from everybody, because when you compare every group in here, without counting like Day 6 and Flying, because they're more bands, they are not extremely dance focused, so they bring something different to the table, and I really enjoy that. So yeah, and then last year they put out 4 amazing songs. I was hoping for another single near the end of the year, but that didn't happen. So yes, highly recommend listening to their music as 4 members and then as 5 members as well. I think their debut album is amazing. The song Don't Flirt or something like that is one of my favorite songs by them, so check them out. They're just really unique, and I like that. Yeah, and hopefully the new comeback is just as amazing as what they put out. So, to no shocker, 17 is number 2. They would be number 1 if it wasn't for something. So ever since this era, and I wouldn't say necessarily too much to this era, like the Don't Cry era and the Clap, the Teenage album, I haven't been feeling 17 as much. They were actually my number 1 for a while, but I don't know, if they continue to gear towards that musical sound, that sound that they've been going for since 2017. Yeah, and I think the Boom song, it's alright, doesn't live up to their other songs, and the Don't Cry and Clap don't even live up to their stuff, in my opinion. But it's not that they're releasing music. It's not that they're releasing bad music. It's just music that I don't, that I wouldn't listen to like constantly. So I would just listen to it. Oh, okay, this is okay. This is alright, but it's not something that I completely love. And that's what it was for me when they first put out, like their first 2 mini albums and their debut album and the repack. I was like that for every single song. So they are releasing a special album, which is a repack of Teenage. So it is supposedly it's called a special album because they're gonna put a lot of new songs in it. And yeah, I hope that they don't decrease, my interest doesn't go away, because I really like every single member. But yeah, so 17 is second place for right now. So I am waiting for that special album to see how things are going for them, and that will be in the 5th of February. And then number 1, which is a group I don't think gets enough attention, is Monsta X. This is their first full-length album. What is this called? It's like a part 3 type of thing. The final chapter, and it's beautiful. Please listen to their albums, please. If you don't like the title tracks, their title tracks a little bit weaker, but the album production for Monsta X is amazing. I adore I just adore every member. They're great, and the music. And for me, and this is why I'm very, very picky with groups. I know a lot of people don't even, which is so weird, they don't necessarily listen to the albums, and they just pay too much, just mainly attention to the, like, how the members looks and everything. But Monsta X, out of all these groups, have been keeping consistency in their music and their sound. There has not been an album that I didn't thoroughly enjoy. So that's why they're number 1 right now. So they are the group that I'm paying attention to the most when it comes to music. Right now, these days, I don't have like the time to learn a lot about each specific member, but I did watch the reality show, the survival show, so I just know the general stuff. But yeah, so I don't have time to watch variety shows or anything, but when it comes to music, they haven't disappointed me at all. So right now they're on my top of my list, so I'm always looking forward to hearing any news from their label about any comebacks. Starships usually puts a lot of effort into the production for each of their artists when it comes to their albums. So please check it out. Every time I look at comments for Monsta X like full album videos, everyone's like, new people are surprised, and obviously Mom Bebes are like, you know, this is just amazing as a previous release. And yes, so I love the consistency. The album production is always on point. The lead tracks are kind of, I don't know why, sometimes some songs like Dramarama, that's like the only song that I've kind of been disappointed on. But every song could be a music video, like a lead single. So that's the amazing thing about Monsta X. So these are for kind of like my new generation, with BTS being kind of like that intermediate. So, and then I also wanted to talk about those groups that were that debuted in 2012, which they hold a special place in my heart, because those are like within like my top 20. So I would lay out the albums right now. And I put them in this video because they are still kind of in the new generation, because they were in that cusp within like that transition, but they didn't necessarily fall in it. And the reason is because they're still promoting a lot these days, so I counted them in. And obviously I actually have a bunch of albums from these groups, so if you are familiar with my channel, if you've seen my collection videos, you know I collect a good majority of their things. So the first group that I wanted to talk about is B2B. They are in the lower portion because I don't know, I feel like sometimes they have too many B-sides that are not that memorable compared to the other groups in here, but they still release great singles, good music videos. I haven't been necessarily disappointed in them, and I like that they've developed this sound of dance and then ballad, so they can choose between the two. And I think it's great because depending on the season, sometimes some songs do well in certain seasons of the year. So ballads typically do extremely well during the winter and the fall. So yeah, so they at least have that strength. Actually, they're kind of like the only group that really does that. So really like B2B. So obviously, yeah. And then newest, they went to a revival stage last year, so we are gonna get some more music from them. They debuted really young, so that's a good thing, that at least we're gonna have, I think, probably two to three more years for them getting like just full-scale promotions before they start slowing down. They gain a huge fan base, and this is the awesome thing that happened with them, and why I think the best thing was JR not joining 101. Okay, so a lot of the groups that seem to have debuted after Produce 101, they don't get the same type of love as New East, and that's what I was fearing. So what I mean by that is like Gugudan doesn't get a lot of attention, Daya doesn't get a lot of attention, what's that other group? Pristin doesn't get too much of it. Like, they do get enough buzz, but they're not on the caliber where G-Friend, Red Velvet, Twice, like nowhere near that. And they actually had that amount of support when they first debuted. So that's what I'm saying. And for New East, I'm so happy that they really got the chance to develop a huge fandom after this show, because that means once Minhyun goes back, he's gonna have 101 fans come to the Love fandom, which is what their fan base is called, and they'll get to continue releasing music with just stable amount of support. So I'm really looking forward to what they're gonna put out. They've always put out great music, so that's why they're here, and I'm really looking forward to once Minhyun comes back, so they can promote as, you know, New East, not just New East W. But please check out their previous discography, because a lot of people just slept on them. So they got lucky they debuted really young, so they still have a bunch of time before joining the army. Then I have BAP, which I've always been kind of disappointed how they lost a lot of their fan base, but this is all Tia's fault, because a good majority of the BTS fans, like the early fans, I am for sure, I'm pretty sure they were babies at one point, because when in 2012, when BAP first came out, they were different than everybody else. They had a different sound. They incorporated hip hop and rap into their music, and they had just intricate choreography. So that's kind of, I feel like that was like the template for BTS, and the Big Hit CEO probably just took a lot of inspiration from BAP, since they got a lot of love internationally, and then they developed a I would say quick amount of support for the little they've been out for. And then they had a really tough promotional cycle. They had just back-to-back comebacks. They were working non-stop, and I think that's the trend that's going nowadays, just to survive. And I know it's really expensive, but it's kind of like if you're not from a big label, that's like the only way to survive these days. And then they put out just great albums. To be completely honest, I've never been disappointed in any of their stuff they put out, any of their singles or anything. So unfortunately, a lot of their initial releases are out of print. So if you just got into K-pop and you like VAP, I would just say buy their newer stuff first and then try to get their more rare things later. But really, really like them. Then second place, Vixx. I think Vixx are kind of like the concept chameleons, in my opinion. It's just, Jellyfish is amazing when it comes to developing concepts for them, and they also get a lot of input into what they release. So I like the fact that I remember that Hyuk was the first, like the member that came up with the concept for On and On, and they do get a lot of say on how they want to be portrayed in each album or for the public. But musically, I think Vixx is one of those groups that are extremely underrated, like Monsta X. They put out fantastic just lead singles. So I know a bunch of people have at least heard one song from Vixx, and they make great pop music. It's just, I love their darker side and then their brighter side. I don't know how they do it. They're perfect. Their albums are amazing. Please check it out. Check out their music. I know they still have a solid fan base, but I feel like nobody talks about Vixx anymore. Please check out their music. And then the subunit, Vixx LR. Enough. Like, I'm just speechless. I don't even know how to describe how much I like Vixx and their music. Looking forward to what they put out this year. I hope that it's a full-length album, because they really haven't gotten one in a while. So yeah. And then number 1, EXO. EXO is one of those groups that I just absolutely loved every single thing they put out for a really long time. It's just, I think musically they've developed just a really stable and solid discography to look back on, because sometimes you do have those like albums that are kind of and if I had to pick one, I would pick Exact as that album for me. But every single thing they touch turns into gold, and I really haven't been extremely disappointed in EXO ever. I just get really irritated with just Lay not being able to promote with them, and obviously Luhan, Chris, and Tao leaving, but that's just for that's just old news, to be completely honest. But SM gives the best songs to EXO. That's a given. Especially like the early days, they were getting the best songs. So they've kind of been doing this. They kind of just been releasing full-length albums every year, so that's good. But yeah, enough said about EXO. I think their success speaks for itself. So, and yeah, they're one of those groups that everybody knows of. So it's not a big shocker for me to pick them as my number 1 for kind of like that era where they were within the second generation, but not really. EXO probably has, I would say, 2 more years before things start changing for them. What I mean by that is like members needing to go to the army. So I don't know if they're gonna pull a super junior, or if they're gonna just go for subunits, or I don't know how they're gonna deal with that, because they are a big money maker for SM. So I feel like that's what's gonna go on. That's what I think the people in SM are trying to figure out. They're probably gonna push another boy, like create another big boy group, to see what's gonna happen. But EXO has been ruling K-pop for a while, and now BTS is kind of fighting for that crown. They kind of are neck and neck, in my opinion. But yes, so yeah, there's really nothing to say about EXO, because they're not one of those groups that is underrated at all. And obviously, if you've heard the discography, EXO just has put out great music. But yeah, I wanted to make this video kind of just talking about the groups that I like at the moment, or are gonna like for a while. And yes, so probably if any type of unboxings are gonna be this year, are gonna be surrounded by these groups in terms of boy groups for newer groups. And then for older groups, obviously, if you're familiar with my channel, you know the groups I like. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it was interesting. I will do the same one for girl groups, probably in, I would say a week or 2 weeks. But yeah, I wanted to make this because I got the idea this morning. Alright, bye guys.